So welcome everyone to this joint webinar by the Green Micro Network Plus and the Reclaim Network Plus. So this is webinar number 45, and this happens to be the last webinar for Reclaim. It's amazing to see that the time passes so quickly. So this is now at the end of Reclaim, which is sad to say, not in terms of the activities, but in terms of the on the paper officially. So this we started this webinar long back, and we haven't missed a single one actually. So it's been running for 45 months, and each time we got two speakers, usually coming from academic and non-academic world. And they are usually happening on lunchtime on every Wednesday, which is the first month of the Wednesday there. So this Reclaim is funded by the GCARE, which is the number of councils involved in it, EPSRC, NERC, and AHRC. And then we got, this is the team member of the Reclaim. So they come from different institutions with a very diverse background in ecology, in social science, and in the water management and so on. So and this is the team for the Greening network. So these webinars will continue under the Greening umbrella. So you will see at the same time happening, going ahead in future. So on the left-hand side, you see the co-leads, and the first on the right-hand side as well, alongside with our network fellow and our project officer, who are helping and who are working in the background to help run these webinars there. So the Greening is again funded by the GCARE, especially by the EPSRC. So yeah, so I mean, the last webinar, as you can see, were given by two colleagues, the one from University of Birmingham, Dr. Emma Ferranti, and then Dr. Sumit Kumar Misra. He's from CACR NPL in India. So this has been quite an international sort of series actually. So we are open to anybody who is interested to contribute in this particular topic. And it doesn't matter actually at what level they are, which institution they are coming, as long as they have something interesting on this relevant topic to share. So the current webinars will run until October 2027. So we got they lined up there. So the Reclaim has been a very successful network, which has created the 722 members across 40 plus countries. And the number of activities, so I'm not going to go into detail of these activities because I've got a presentation to do to talk about the achievements, in the end. So just moving back actually to the Greening again. So the Greening has got a lot more opportunities coming up for you. So one of the opportunities is the Sandpit workshop, which is open currently. So if you're interested to apply for funding, you can just sign up for this Sandpit, and we'll be funding around 3 to 4 projects. So we got over 100K to spread around these projects. So please do apply to the funding, to the Sandpit application. If you are in the UK, you can directly apply, but if you are outside the UK, you could still become the collaborator on the grants. You will not be able to receive the funding directly, but you can obviously become the collaborator on the grant and can benefit. So today we got two speakers. The first one is Dr. Sandra Persiani, and she comes from the Technical University of Munich. And second speaker, I have the pleasure of taking this spot for this last webinar. So we're talking about the legacy of Reclaim Network. So before Sandra starts putting her, the slides on, so there are a couple of housekeeping notes. So these webinars are recorded and they are available on our YouTube channel. So there will be, there will be an email going to you once this webinar is over with a link. They also go into the newsletters. And then if you have any questions, please use Q&A chat box you can see on your screen and put your name and question. So I will read out to our speakers today in the end. So the way it works is our first speaker have 20 minutes, then the second speaker will have 20 minutes, and then we'll take all the questions later on. So, so these are some of these housekeeping notes. So let me then introduce to our first speaker, Dr. Sandra Persiani. She's a formed architect and researcher within a PhD in engineering environmental design, working between the fields of architecture and biology. Her interdisciplinary work addresses nature-based approaches to improve and measure quality in the built environment, looking at systematic aspects and synergies behind different actors from microbes to humans. In the last 5 years, she has acquired experience planning, leading, and managing field and lab experiments, studying the effect of plants on humans and on the indoor environment. She has received a number of awards and scholarships, among which the Alexander von Humboldt Postdoctoral Scholarship and the Gold Medal for Sustainable Architect, FASA Botleo 13. She has also worked with the Helmholtz Center Munich Institute of Comparative Microbiome Analysis at the Energy Institute at Nanjing Technological University, Singapore. But just to say, Sandra has been a brilliant collaborator, and she has done a lot of work actually with us on Greenin, including co-authoring some of the papers we have been working on over the last many months. So, Sandra, over to you. Can you hear us? And you can share your screen.
I can hear you. Hopefully you can hear me too.
Yes, so looks like your camera is still not working, but that's all right.
No. But I'll try to share my screen. Hopefully that will work.
Yes.
Okay. So does this look like something?
Yes. So I think we can see the screen as well. Yes.
Okay. That's great. Well, many thanks for the invitation and for having you here at the Reclaim webinar series, and many thanks, Prashant, for the amazing introduction you gave. It has been a pleasure to work with the whole team on the many publications. And well, I'm excited today to give this little talk about some things we have been studying in the last years. I will show you briefly some experiments we have been doing, but before we dive into that, I think I need to give a little bit of background about the topics we are dealing with. And so specifically dealing with whatever symbiotic indoor environments are. With symbiotic, I refer to a type of prolonged association and interaction between different species, in our case, in built environments. And before we move into the building scale, we need to talk a little bit about what happens on a very, very small scale, because we usually imagine our indoor environments to be quite empty of life. And that in reality is, well, it's far than what the reality is. We actually share our lives with a great variety of organisms. And these organisms exist all around us. Microbiomes are basically communities of microorganisms, which includes, for instance, bacteria, fungi, viruses, and many other that inhabit a specific environment. And they inhabit our indoor spaces, outdoor spaces, and also we can also find them inside our body. And they are actually responsible for a great range of extensive physiological functions that we perform daily, as for instance, homeostasis, harvesting energy, protection against pathogens, immune functions, and so on. And we can also find these different microbiomes, so different compositions of these organisms in all the major interfaces between our body and our environment. So there are specific microbiomes for oral cavities, for the respiratory system, for our guts, the skin, and so on. And these microbiomes that are so important for us, they have co-evolved along with us, basically exchanging favor with us over millions of years as we have progressively adapted and changed, living in different environments and adapting to a mosaic of natural habitats, which is a characteristic of our species, which is for the humans, the only existing species at the moment. And while we have adapted to this great variety of natural habitats, well, as you know, things in the last 10,000 years have really speeded up a lot. As you can see at the top right of the graph, we have started living in a completely new environment. We have started creating our own environments. Only 9,500 years ago is Göbekli Tepe, which is at the moment the oldest settlement that has been found. But since then, well, we have increasingly been living in cities, and now today we have what we call mega cities even. And the proportion of the amount of people that live in cities is ever growing. Today we have 55% of the global population that lives in urban areas, and it is thought that in 50 years from now, actually 80% of the people globally will be living in urban areas, and while the population will actually have quadrupled compared to what it is today. So we're talking about really a lot of people living in urban environments. And also the type of these environments is also ever changing because you might already have heard also that urban territories expand twice as fast as the populations, which means that in 50 years from now, many of us won't be living in the buildings as we are privileged and type of buildings that we are living in, but we're talking about a lot of spontaneous type of building, densely populated areas that are impoverished and lack of basic services. And on the other hand, the other ones of us who do live in buildings like we do now, we spend 98% of our times indoors. So it is really a huge shift in what is our living environment. And so together with the ecosystem around us that we change, we have also changed many aspects of our lifestyle. And this is how we have seen a huge rise in what are often called urban-related diseases. And of course, these diseases are not just linked to the built environment. There are behavioral changes, social changes that impact health and so on. But if we go back to our microbiome discourse, well, we do know that the built environment has a lower microbial diversity than in the natural environments that we developed in. And in fact, greater urbanization correlates with lower gut microbiome, for instance. Another factor is that these environmental environmental context and lifestyle are really primary factors in shaping our own microbial composition and our health. This is long before any kind of genetic predisposition we might have. So the theory behind many of these diseases is that there is, let's say, a shift between the speed at which we are changing our ecosystem, which outpaces our own capacity to biologically adapt to it. And this is how new ideas are coming up. For instance, this rewilding theory, which frames the urban environment as a new potential to develop a new ecosystem where we need to integrate biodiversity so that it can support our own health as well as planetary health. So this is a little bit of the background. I would now show you briefly 3 experiments we did over the last years here at the Technical University of Munich. The 2 first directly relate to the, the microbiome. And this first experiment called Symbio, so the background idea was that indoor environments have shown to have low microbial diversity compared to outdoor environments. And the idea is that plants, green plants that we put inside our buildings may be a chief source to replenish the diversity of the indoor microbiome. So the research question here was, do office plants improve the microbial diversity in indoor environments? So for this experiment, we had no test subjects because we were really looking just at the indoor environments, but we did test 14 real office rooms here at the Technical University of Munich of different sizes, but we kept them comparable. Some of the rooms were acting as control, other rooms were green. And the duration of the study was over a little bit more than a year. So we collected data for 18 months, which allowed us to have 15 months of clean data. And this was the variable that we introduced. You see this plant container. We had 4, or actually I think we had 5 identical of these semi-hydroponic plant containers with the same 6 species in it. And we were shifting these between the rooms to try out different scenarios. It was really a very exploratory study. So we had one room where we had the plants adding up over time. We had the second scenario where we were shifting the same plant between 2 rooms to see if there were any short time effects over 2 months. We had a seasonal variant, and so over 6 months, and a permanent variant where the same plant container stayed in the same room over the whole duration of the experiment. As I said, some rooms were controls, so with no plants at all, and other were also controls, but with existing plants that belonged to the people in the rooms. As I said, those were real spaces. These were the metrics we were looking at. So for the plants, we took swabs of the substrate. Basically, that looks as we all took nose swabs during the corona pandemic. So it's the same kind of swab that we were inserting in the substrate and then sending to the lab. In terms of built environments, we were checking, so we checked for room size and volume, the orientation of the room, the type of the building was, they are all in the same part of the university, so basically the same type of naturally ventilated building. And we put in fixed climate loggers, so we checked for temperature changes, humidity, lux, acoustics, and CO2. And then for the indoor and outdoor microbiome, we exposed Petri dishes to collect settled dust, which then were also sent to the lab. So for all our samples, we performed DNA extraction and analyzed following a 16S molecular barcoding. And well, a lot of the data analysis is still ongoing, so I can unfortunately only talk about some preliminary data, but which already give a few indications. So in terms of the plant microbiome, we tested both the plants in the rooms and the variables we had. So the permanent pots had very individual and stable microbiome, which didn't change over the experiment. There was really very high local diversity, which meant that depending on the spot where the swab was inserted in the substrate, it did show that the microbial communities changed based on where it was inserted. And the variable containers, as they were, we basically set them up at the beginning of the experiment. So over the duration of the experiment, the plants settled down and their microbiome as well, and eventually it stabilized over time. In terms of architectural aspects, we didn't see any statistically significant influence of the plants we introduced, which on the one hand was good because the rooms were really very comparable. They were all office rooms, and I mean, really just the size of them varied. And in terms of the built environment microbiome, well, because we were able to collect over such a long time frame, we could really see a seasonal behavior depending on the outdoor microbiome. As I said, the spaces are naturally ventilated, so it was really interesting to see how from spring to autumn, you could really see how the outdoor microbiome impacted the composition of the indoor microbiome, which they became much more similar as everybody started opening windows. This is a second experiment, which was built on very similar premises to the previous one, only in this case, we were looking at the microbial diversity in the subjects. So this time we had 27 office workers who were kind enough to swab their nose for us. So we were looking at how introducing a plant in their office environment would change specifically the microbiome in their nose, which supposedly is the first frontier where there would be an interaction. Again, we had, so these 27 people were working in 20 different rooms. We had 10 rooms that were greens and 10 controls. In this case, the plant we used was the Ficus elastica. As you see a picture of it here in this case, and the whole experiment lasted 6 months, which meant that also we tested during winter time, because in this case we did not want to have the windows open, so we really wanted to see only the effect of the indoor plants. So the people tested first for 2 weeks, a baseline of 2 weeks where no plants were in any of the rooms. And the subjects were asked to test on Monday morning and Friday afternoon to allow us to distinguish from whatever happened during the working week and during the weekend. And then we had week 3 to 6 was of exposure, so half of the rooms were then greened with these pots. And then after these weeks, we took out all the plants and we did 3 swap out weeks, which means then that in week 7, 11, and 17, we asked again the people to test to see how long after the exposure we could still see any effects. Here again, so this time for the plant microbiome, having had the experience of the previous experiment, we decided to also test the leaves of the plants. So we swabbed both the upper side and the bottom side of the leaves, and we tested again the substrate in the same way. For the built environment, I put it a little bit in grayish because this time we just checked for the comparability between the rooms, but there weren't really any other variables we checked for there. For the indoor microbiome, again, we exposed Petri dishes, also to collect outdoor dust as well, to compare also with the previous experiments. And as I said, this time we collected the human microbiome, so swabbing the nose on Monday and Fridays. And here, this experiment, as it's also a bit more recent, we're really still processing the data, extracting the data. So unfortunately, I have no results to share, but hopefully that will come up soon. And finally, very briefly, I wanted to show a completely different study that also involves human health in the longer perspective. But here we didn't deal with the microbiome, but more physiological measures. So the question here was more if there are physiological effects of indoor greening. This experiment named Green Placebo, the background for this is that, as many of you might know, indoor greenery has proven to have very strong psychological effects on users, as mental health, relaxing effects, and so on. And in terms of physiological study, well, the outcomes are always, or very often, I would say always, framed as psychophysiological outcomes, and have been studied over very short time frames, which means that in our case, we really wanted to try to figure out a way to see if there were any purely physiological effects, if you could say so. So kind of trying to sort out that positive psychological impact that we would have from seeing the plants. So in this case, we had a lab study. We had 34 subjects. Each subject was sitting in the lab for a full day and sitting through 4 different testing scenarios. The testing would work as follows. So first, the person would come to the lab and sit outside the lab, still in an indoor space, but kind of acclimatizing coming from outside for about 30 minutes, so that the physiological effects would kind of stabilize. Then they would be asked to enter into the room, and they would be exposed to the testing scenario for 90 minutes. And then they would have a break for another 30 minutes, where they were asked to actually exit outdoor and take a short walk and then come back. And while the test subjects were absent, we would change the setting inside the lab so that they wouldn't kind of know what was changed. So these were the 4 testing scenarios. So from the top left, you have the person sitting in the lab with no plants. Then we would put in 3 real plants in the second scenario. In the third scenario, we would have very similar looking plants, but actually artificial. So that is why also the experiment is called placebo, to test for people not knowing that the plants were artificial, whether they would react in the same way as in the presence of the real plants. And the fourth scenario was also kind of a control. So in those cases, we would have the real plants, but outside the window. So the visual connection would still be there, but supposedly no physical connection because of the window being closed.
If you can start wrapping up, Sandra, that'd be great.
Sure. So I'm not going to delve into too much into what we were looking at. The interesting parts were just we checked the testing environment, of course, where the temperature was stable. All other measures were just checked for. And then we had the people wearing a physiological watch, and we gave them a questionnaire to test for the psychological impact. And here, so on the left side, we did a time series of what happened over the 90 minutes. Actually, you have 60 minutes because, of course, the data was kind of cut before and after to clean it. And in terms of the built environment, there weren't really big changes, at least not from the plants. Of course, the presence of the person indoors was the big game changer. Here you have humidity, and also the 4 scenarios are pretty much comparable. In terms of psychology, you can see, so you have the 2 bars in the middle that are on the left side, the real plants, and then on the right side, the artificial plants. As expected, they performed very similarly compared to the scenarios where there were no plants in the room, regardless if there were no plants or if they were outside the window. Interestingly, from a physiological point of view, so just shortly, one thing that is important to say about the time frame is that we matched the sequence to be at a common point at the starting point. So what the idea is that it displays more the tendency of the curves rather than the absolute values. And here, both in terms of the tonic electrodermal activity and the skin temperature, we see that the scenarios without plants in the room really have a completely different tendency than the scenarios with the 2 plants in the room. And also interestingly, well, although real and artificial plants show similar outcomes, the artificial plants don't really account for the same effect as the real plants. This is pretty much all I had to show. Just a few takeaway messages from the very first experiment is, in my opinion, the importance of the indoor-outdoor exchange, and at least in microbial terms, the benefits there might be of having naturally ventilated buildings. So in that sense, the indoor green could be probably more seen as an extension or a complement of the existing urban green-blue infrastructure. Of course, for all the experiments, we really need to identify new metrics and new data collection protocols. And maybe a takeaway about the very last experiment is about the fact that the artificial plants could partially reproduce the same effect as the real plants. So the question is there something there that we psychologically do not pick up on, but physiological benefits that are there that the artificial plants cannot give beyond the psychological effects? And again, we also need longer monitoring campaigns because of the high variability of the metrics we're using. Studying 5 minutes of the effects is really very limiting. With that, I would like to thank you. I had one last slide, which I guess is coming. But with that, my presentation is here it is, at an end. Thank you for listening to me. And well, here you have my contacts in case you wish to write to me. Thank you very much. I'll stop sharing and give back the word to Prashant.
Hey, thank you very much, Sandra. I think it's a fantastic study. There are not a lot actually in this particular area. So I'd encourage actually our participants to write any questions they might have for you. So please do use the Q&A chat box to write your questions, and we'll pick it up later on. Okay, so I believe that is me next.
Do you want me to do an intro or?
Looks very strange, right?
Just go ahead with the presentation. We're a bit late.
Yeah, so just to say, I think it's a pleasure actually to presenting the work we have been doing through Reclaim Network Plus. And as I said, this happens to be formally the last webinar for the network. So what I thought was presenting basically some of the activities and the opportunities the network has created to build a very vibrant community who is interested in urban green and blue infrastructure there. So as I said very beginning, the Reclaim is funded by the GCARE. So it's EPSRC, NERC, and AHRC. And I had the pleasure of leading this network alongside the colleagues from UKCH, Bath, Warwick, and Bangor University. So, so the Reclaim, is basically, if you take the full form, it's talking about reclaiming forgotten cities, turning cities from vulnerable spaces to healthy places for people. So the whole idea of the project has been to look into the green-blue infrastructure deprived areas and producing the evidence base and a network of the people who could potentially, help take this agenda forward. Next, please. So, so that's the team. So it's me on the top left, and then we got colleagues who bringing in the expertise across the different domains. We had the colleagues earlier who supported this network, especially Mark Siemens was our previous project manager, and then Charlotte and has been doing fantastic job in keeping all the series running. And then now we got supported by Kanika, and we had our network fellow, Cisse, who helped with the initial activities in the beginning. So the network, we started with like 40 members in the beginning, which included the collaborators across the UK, coming from the charities, businesses, academics, and non-academic community. And then it has grown substantially. So, we have around over 750 at some point, but then when reviewing actually the membership, we got 722 members. And the number of the countries has increased to almost 50, which is amazing to see that how much interest people have in this particular topic. And you could also see, the on the graph, actually, they come from very diverse backgrounds and with very different sort of, other interest in terms of the benefits they wanted to see from there. So we have been very actively doing the outreach of the network with over 1,500 followers, over 1,000 posts over the project duration. The same thing with on X, you can see, the quite a lot of extensive activities. We have been doing the newsletter monthly. We never missed a newsletter since we started, like the webinars. We got the YouTube, so there is a huge amount of resources being created. So all these webinars are there. There are lots of videos which has been created through these projects which we funded, and also the event. So we'd really encourage you to visit the YouTube channel of the Reclaim. We can put it in the chat box. And there has been a number of blogs being written up by lots of people who have participated in network activities. And we created a huge amount of resources, in terms of the publications, the databases, the CPD, and the toolkits. I'll talk about them, in briefly. So just in numbers, we funded almost 400,000 worth of, the project through the network. And each of these smaller projects, they created a very nice, the case studies around the urban green blue infrastructure. And these case studies, they started with urban rewilding to the school gate to putting, understanding the behavior of the people. And you can see 2 to 3 minutes video on each of these projects on the Reclaim page if you go on in the the project category there. Talked about this, the webinars, and we funded workshops. We created the synthesis reviews. There has been the number of the videos created and number of publications there. And we just launched actually the CPD courses and the database and the how to toolkit. So there are 3 things which has happened over the last the few weeks. So there is a lot actually to take it forward, the legacy of the network. These are some of the project titles I was talking about, and you could see they've been run by the diversity of the people across the UK. So it's been the colleagues coming from the Bangor University to the Gloucester to to London and Bath. So there has been the very diversity of the projects, as you can see, some talking about the urban parks, some on or the citizen science approach to the thing. But one of the things which was very common in all these projects, that was that they were dealing with the green and blue or green or blue infrastructure, but also assessing more than one benefits. So usually what happens is when we see a lot of projects, either they focus on air pollution or flooding or overheating. But one of the criteria of these projects was that they were looking into more than one benefit. So like some of the projects, like this citizen science project on creating a the really nice living Hesday, the gate in Guildford, that was looking into the air pollution, overheating, biodiversity. There are 3 aspects of it, and likewise the other projects were looking into the different activities as well. So this is one of the examples of the project, and it's really proud to say that this was the initiative which produced basically the first living gate in the UK. So you can see this gate that opens up. It has got the automatic irrigation system. It was open. There is a very busy road on the roadside, and this gate acted like a funnel for the air pollution. And this gate looks even more beautiful if you pass through the central primary gate in Guildford. So this is really flourishing. And we did the assessment of the impact, and then it almost produced resulted in 45% almost the pollution. And one of the key things was the noise actually. So it reduced actually the noise by almost 5 decibel. It was quite amazing that the children basically put this together, and it was a co-created effort by the school, by local councils, the charity organization called Zero Carbon Guildford, and so on. I don't think we have time to play this video, but we'll put the link into the video, into the chat box. But this is a really beautiful video which talks about the key take-home messages and what's been done within 2-3 minutes. So if you have those 2-3 minutes, I would really encourage you to watch this video there. We created this GBJ database, which is a lot of activity going around. So in a way that we summarized the literature around 7 different challenges, which is air pollution, flooding, overheating, biodiversity, carbon storage, and looking into the noise. So we created this database. So this database is very recently launched. We're still making some final tweaks. So in fact, the one benefit of that is you can simply go there and you can choose actually what you're interested in, type of studies, type of impact you have, and it really visualizes nicely for you. It gives a very nice sort of, the information in terms of what you could get. You can find out basically the effect of the green blue infrastructure in different areas. So there were 7 synthesis reviews we promised to deliver as part of this this project. So they were relating to all these 7 challenge areas, as I mentioned. And one of the reviews came, for example, on the heating in a top-ranked journal, which is called the Innovation. And there were like 29 co-authors involved from 26 institutions across 5 countries. And one of the things what we did in this work was we try basically to characterize the different type of green blue infrastructure. So we characterize that into 51 different types across 10 main categories. As you can see, the ones actually which is in the golden color are the ones you can find the data. So one of the key findings of this work was a lot of the stuff actually we do these days around the greening is done based on the expert judgment, not really a lot of evidence available. So if you're a researcher, there is definitely a need actually for filling up all these areas where there's nothing almost exists actually in this particular area. So we followed the same theme, and the next review we did was around the air pollution abatement on the green blue infrastructure. So it's been a massive review again with the 32 co-authors from 29 institutions, 7 countries. And it was another the effort to identify actually what sort of impact this green blue infrastructure do in terms of reducing the exposure to the people. So again, a study which is open access. We'll encourage you to read through if you are interested in this. And the other one was around the biodiversity. So that was published as well. So it covered basically the different aspects of the biodiversity there. And we are still trying to finalize the noise review and the flooding review and the carbon storage and the health and well-being. So there is a little bit of delays on that, but they are on the way to appear at some point soon. So one of the really the kind of proud legacy for the network is the CPD courses. It's been a significant effort which has been done over the past several months by a number of Reclaim experts, including the co-leads and the members and the experts. And we created these 7 different courses. So each of these courses again are against each challenge area we are talking about. They are free to do. Each course is around 45 minutes. We designed it in such a way that it can act like a CPD for you. So if you are a student or if you want to add actually then in your in your CVs, that would be a good way to do that. So it has like 3 sections, each of these courses. So the first talks about the importance and the mechanism, and then second one talks about the case studies, and third one talks about the recommendations. So there are 3 sections in each of these courses, and each section is accompanied by a little quiz. So you'll have like 4 or 5 questions to answer based on what you have read there. So you don't need to write anything, you just choose actually those, the tick boxes. It's a fantastic resource. We just launched. So there is the link, and there is this register to, the code there. Since we launched actually last week or so, we already got over 100 users on those courses. And we have been promoting it and would like you to take these courses, one or more courses, whatever is interest to you. In fact, if I would be you, I would rather try to do the courses where I'm least interested in first, because that allows me to build that, the understanding of those areas, apart from the ones which are really the core activities there. So we really encourage you to promote this in your network, but also consider taking those courses there, which has been created just for you. The other massive efforts have been, and that came out as part of the advisory board, which includes a lot of councils and local authorities, businesses. And one of the things they said that, look, you know what, we know about the greening, but we really need some toolkit which can allow our councillors or officers to take actually this information to the community. So we co-created this. There were 47 co-authors in it. A majority of them coming from the councils and the local, the authorities. Then we added actually some experts in it, so to make sure that it's all evidence-based and it's all, providing basically the right sort of, the science messaging in a public-facing way. So this was launched a couple of weeks ago. We already got almost around, the 500 downloads with over 2,000 sort of, the views and so on. So this is going on in there. You're most welcome to download your own copy. So you can see the download kit. You can also watch a little video which talks about what this toolkit is all about. Again, it's all free, delivered actually to meet the needs of our councillors to take this agenda forward. It's been a hard work, but this work I think is worth actually to kind of to take this the idea forward. So again, this is a very proud legacy of the network. The webinar series I was talking about, so 45 webinars, 95 speakers. In each webinar, we have 2 or more speakers there, and over 3,000 views we have. So these videos are there. So in a way that you cannot find more information at one place anywhere in the world than you can find here on the different type of topics we have covered over the last, let's say, the 45 months. So it's a fantastic resource for you to pick and choose any videos you might want it to, you are interested in topic areas. So they are, as you can see, very nicely framed and named. So you can just don't need to look at the whole thing. And there's a little description of each of the videos there as well. So it's a fantastic sort of, the resource since we started from the launch. So really welcome you all to visit and subscribe to this page and share with the, with your friends and, the networks who are interested in this area. Workshop was another way. So you can see the huge amount of, the efforts gone into supporting the workshop done by mostly, you can see the non-academic, the colleagues like the Royal Botanic Garden, there has been in the, by the Ipswich Council, there was Sparks, Bristol. So we tried to support actually the people who are working on the ground, and they can bring the community together. So this has been another fantastic opportunity where you can see really nice, the photos, people really engaging. The formats were very different, which included from taking the walks actually into the urban areas to looking into the, like this is a photo from the Portsmouth. You can see really nice sort of living wall actually there to, the reclaiming the canals. So they were spread around the 7 areas again. So you can find a lot about these workshops, but also there is a specific blog on each of these workshops, which has been written and put on the website there. One of the activities was we wanted to, encourage our young researchers, especially the ECRs, to take up the visit to the different places so they can exchange the knowledge, they can learn from them, they can share those things. I'm really proud actually to support 6 of these, our knowledge exchange fellows who took their, their work with the different academics and different people in different universities there. But I must say that we might want you to do more actually on this activity, which has been, which had been the most, I would say, the undersubscribed in terms of the demand. So, but what have been done? So each of them has created the videos and they created their blog as well. But this has been a fascinating journey actually with a lot of these people, getting a lot actually out from this network. So, for example, the Karina has been a prime example. So she has been really a fantastic person who engaged actually with the network. They got this opportunity to do the knowledge exchange, and she also then applied for the funding as an ECR. She managed to win one of those projects, and she has she has done a lot actually, benefited from the network, and the network benefited from her even more actually. So you could see a lot of these people, having their exchanges and doing fantastic job there. Engagement events, like we had every year one of them. So we started one at University of Surrey in 2023. We had in all of them over 100, the participants. The second one we did in Barbican in London. That was an amazing place. If you're not aware of this, it's like a hidden oasis in the middle of the city. You can see there was a very nicely done, the workshop, the conference. The third one was done on January 2025 at Surrey. And the fourth one, which is, we can close it more like a closing workshop, which is happening on 12th of February at Surrey. It's not on the same pattern. The whole idea here has been to bring in these stakeholders and policymakers and have a more sort of bespoke discussions to take actually some of these activities and the impact in the forward, what we have created, in there. But if any of you are interested in attending, please drop us an email and we will be very happy to, come back to you. So it's 12th of February, just to remind, in Guildford. So the another interesting thing was the photography competition. So one of our co-leads, she's a social scientist, and these are the artists. They have done a fantastic job in terms of doing the photo competition there. And these were some of the best pictures of the photos, which was done through an open competition that took So the whole idea there was focusing on these 51 different type of green and blue infrastructure in urban areas, and then each of these pictures is telling a story that what these pictures mean. So they are not really taken from the internet. In fact, they are the real photo. They have been taken by the individuals and submitted as part of the entry. So it was the fantastic sort of an event there. The the another the activity has been the funding. So to take the legacy of the network, we have we have applied for the funding. We have supported the different sort of the projects, including the GP4 Estate project, the Green Micro Network, the UGPN, the Green City. So there were a lot of successful projects which came through, and there's been a huge impact in terms of the media presenting the work in the parliament. And a lot of these, the UN and the World Economic Forum and all, they're picking up actually the nice work and taking that work as a, to sort of support their agenda. So at the end of the day, what we achieved actually is a strong and lasting network. This is what we promised. Share learning between the cities and less desperate cities, cohort of trained practitioners, more decision taken, bigger and bolder initiatives, and greater involvement of the public in design and implementation. So we envisage that this is what we are going to achieve, and we believe that as a team, I think we have achieved most of them, and in fact gone beyond actually to create something which we really proud of. So I think with that, I would like to thank and for all the team who have been working so hard over the last 45 months on this project. And the momentum is continuing and we are pushing it really hard. So we invite you to again become the member of the network. So as I said, it's not the end. It's we'll continue. We'll sustain these activities and take part in the CPD and the toolkit and the resource space. So there is a lot more opportunities there which we have created, and they are open to use. So I'll stop here. Thank you. So I believe that I need to take this another role because we were missing our the facilitator for this session. So I have to play two roles there as a speaker and facilitator. So there is a question from Jahir or for Sandra. So the question is, has Sandra, great work and presentation. A couple of questions. Are you investigating indoor fungal diversity in addition to bacterial diversity? Was there any impact of the soil in potted plants on indoor microbiome diversity? Sandra, this question for you.
Yes, thank you very much for this question. Yes, indeed, we are looking at the fungal composition as well. This is actually what is ongoing at the moment, so that is not included in the preliminary results. The preliminary results were mostly on the bacterial communities. So for that part, I really have no answer yet for you what the outcomes were, but yeah, this is in the process and it might actually be very interesting as you anticipate.
Perfect. There is another question from Dr. Hausen, and he's asking about these are interesting studies. Quick question about the first one. Over the 6-month period, how did you control the variable changing in the background? Easy winter might need to open the heater when looking at the impact of indoor greening, especially for the nasal measurements. Looks like quite tricky to control variables since people aren't in the office all the time, and other nasal microbiome can vary, for a lot of reasons.
Yes, indeed. Thank you for this question too. It's really a very important point. As you anticipate, of course, that's the beauty of real studies that are in real environments. On one hand, you really get the full package of answers. On the other hand, there's really a lot of noise. So we did try to check for things we thought would have a very big impact. First of all, we asked all of our test subjects to remove any plants in their bedrooms, because of course there again we had to find a balance between what was actually achievable by the people, so we couldn't ask them to remove all their plants, but we thought that probably spending a lot of time sleeping during the night, at least we could reduce that kind of exposure. And together with, so every time they tested with a swab, they were asked to fill in a questionnaire we prepared, where we were, for instance, trying to control for something that is very common here in Germany, is that people go hiking over the weekend or actually just spend a lot of time outside. So that was one of the main questions, because that would clearly have a very big impact. We also asked people how they would usually come to the office. Again, here it's very common to bike or to walk to the office. So of course, depending on what urban areas you would pass through, and if you change your patterns of use, that would also have an impact. It starts driving the car, for instance, one week. So we tried to check for that. And we also asked them, especially so there would be different questionnaires for on the Monday and on the Friday. So the Monday questionnaire would cover up for the weekend, and the Friday questionnaire would cover up for what happened during the week. So more or less how much time they would spend inside the room, because of course, as you know, some people walk between rooms or have a presentation a few days. So that of course might have an impact too. So this is a little bit how we try to control for things. In terms of the built environment, well, the buildings here are centrally heated, for instance. So in some cases, we do not have control at all of our own heating systems. Of course, people can here open the window, but and of course we ask them if they how often they would open the window, for instance, for exchanging air and so on. But we couldn't really ask for more detail than that. So let's see how that works out. We do know, or what we expect from the data, is that there will be a very big variability between subjects. So likely the nose microbiome clusters around is subject specific. So the signal we're trying to pick up on is really very tiny compared to that great inter-subject variability. Yeah, we'll see how much of that we will manage to figure out. It is clearly only a pilot study because we only had a limited number of subjects. But hopefully, if we can pick up on something interesting, it is possible to do a bigger study and really rely on the big numbers, because in these type of studies, as I said, it's really about getting as many test subjects as possible. So
Perfect.
thank you for the question.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I think in the interest of time, because we are almost 2 minutes over, so we'll just wrap this up. So I believe that we got some of the closing slides, right? Sandra, so if you can bring them over. Thank you very much for, very interesting presentation and showing the preliminary results. So it looks to me that we definitely have you as a candidate to present in the greening webinars, the going forward. I think the next one we have, again, as I said, so we will launch actually this series under the greening lunch and talk, sort of lunch and learn, the webinar. I think that's the name we decided, which will start from, at the same time from next March under the new sort of, the portfolio. But that will be focused around the greening. So most of the speakers will come, you will see that they're talking about the indoor plants. For the reclaim, we have been having a lot more focus on the outdoor, and then a couple of these webinars in the past, we just, tried to kind of, deliver them in joint with outdoor and indoor perspective. So the next one we have is, as you can see, the air quality, the Hertfordshire County Council, Matthew Clark, so he's doing fantastic work around the indoor greening. And then we got a landscape architect from Scottscape. So this is a nice company actually who's doing a lot of work on the indoor and outdoor sort of greening. So it's really amazing to see these speakers coming from the business and from the the policy perspective, for the next month. So please note the time in your diaries. And again, as I said, the network is still open, so it could become a member of the network. Both reclaim and the greening membership is open as well. So if you are interested in the indoor greening, please do sign up. So you'll start getting the newsletters and the opportunities, a lot of opportunities through the network available. We'd love to share actually those opportunities with you. Last but not the least, I think I should really take this opportunity to give a big round of applause to all the speakers who have spoken in this series so far. So we said 95 plus 2 today, that becomes 97. Plus there has been colleagues who have been hosting, them. So they're fantastic job they have done. At the same time, we should thank Charlotte, who has been with us, from the day one when we started these webinars. And we haven't missed any of them. So that's really a big achievement. So we should give a big round of applause to Charlotte for, helping managing this so nicely and so effectively. And all these videos and everything has been there. And yeah, we are on the LinkedIn, X, and the Blue Sky, especially for the greening. So please feel free to share and write to us actually if you have any questions or anything in this particular area, and we'd love to connect you with the people or provide you support with that. So again, thank you very much, Sandra, for your fantastic presentation, and all of you for taking time to listen to this this talk. Really appreciate that, and looking forward to see you in the next month first webinar for the greening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. Many thanks for having me.